Hi, I'm Prism Raven, and here are 8 things I learned from 8 years of art. Yes, I have been drawing for 8 years now, which is crazy to say and think, and it's not entirely accurate because really the past few years have not really involved a lot of art making. As some of you may know, I am an engineering student, or was, I recently graduated, and so much of the past 4 or so years have just been a chaotic mess of mathematics and busyness. Nevertheless, I still learned a lot in those 8 years, and I think I've shown enough significant growth to be able to give advice for some people who may just be beginning. Let's begin. The first thing I can share is to do what scares you the most. Now, I'm not talking about drawing your nightmares, although I did that in my recent video. Go check that out if you haven't already. What I mean is to step out of your comfort zone and try something that you struggle with. As artists, we naturally have certain things about our art that we prefer. Some people may like drawing backgrounds more, some people love character illustration, some love the storytelling aspect of it. And oftentimes, we can overly lean into these interests and strengths and hyper-strengthen those aspects of our art, while also neglecting the other parts that we don't have as much interest in. That often results in people being afraid to do those things that they are not as good at. For me, that has always been background illustration and environments. I have a natural love for human faces and just characters in general and illustrating them. So ever since the beginning, that has always been my focus, and that still is my focus, honestly. But I feel like I have learned so much in the process of discovering what I can do with other things. Also, when you hyper-train specific parts of your skill set, the weakness of the other parts really start to show in contrast. And that's not really a fun thing to experience, to notice that although you are very good at this thing, the other weaker parts of your art are weighing you down in a way, and it's limiting your potential of what you can achieve. And who wants that? The periods of my art journey where I gained the most knowledge and skill have not only been those times where I drew very consistently, they are also times when I did things that I was not very comfortable with. So even if you're not the very adventurous kind, I suggest that you, every once in a while, just step out of the box and try something different. Maybe do something that you've been dreading to learn, and you'll really be shocked at what that can teach you about not only that new thing, but also the existing parts of your art that have maybe gotten a little stale with the lack of perspective you've had due to being boxed off to this tiny aspect of what you're good at. This idea of improvement also ties into the second point, actually, which is that evolution is painful. I have noticed that there are certain periods of my journey where I really just hate everything that I make. And that is either a product of not practicing, or that is a sign that I am about to experience a massive evolution in my art. There's never anything in between of that. It's always just either one or the other. And I say that because I think a lot of artists who are in this intermediate stage, I think they go through this phase where they hate everything they do. And a lot of the times that is actually a result of you substantially getting better in a short period of time. How does that work? Well, the two aspects of learning art that are at play here include 1, your knowledge, the information that you've gained through maybe your own journey, your practices, your studies, and number 2, the muscle memory that you have. It's very important to be mindful of those two, as they often develop in typically non-congruent timelines, so that often results in people hating everything that they do because they have now gained this awareness of what is right, the concept of the values, the shapes, and what typically makes an appealing artwork, while also not really having yet the proper hand-eye coordination to be able to execute what they have in their head. It feels like you are kind of in this stage of regression when in fact you're actually improving by a great amount, just not consistently in the different aspects of art. So if ever you are at this stage, just know that everybody goes through it and just keep going. Your focus, especially during times like this, should be to stay reminded of the reason why you started and to never lose that spark and that joy of creation. It's important to never lose that in spite of your desire to improve in a technical manner. Number 3 is kind of a random one. Do an art styles challenge. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The 10 art styles challenge is the most difficult video I've ever done and continue to do in my channel. And the reason why I still do it is because not only does it get attention, I find that it's actually very helpful for making sure I am improving. Like I said in the first point, I think that it's a very common pitfall for artists to get caught up in doing our own thing, that we forget that there's a whole new realm outside of what we are doing and what we are focusing on right now. And doing art styles challenge and exposing yourself to different modes of illustration can really open up your eyes to what is possible with what you can do with your art. I doubt that any of you don't really know what an art styles challenge is, but if you don't, it's this thing where you take 10 art styles that can be shows that you watch or individual artists online, and you draw a character in all these styles to study what makes them different, to hopefully learn many of the technical skills that it takes to be able to execute the creation of these styles. I believe that an artist is kind of nothing without their observation skills. And this challenge is a great way to improve on exactly that. I feel like every time I do this challenge, I gain so much knowledge, and it really does change my perspective of not only my art, but the art of these people, because you really have to look in depth into the tiny details of what makes their art style look so distinctly theirs. I don't know, I feel like you just have to experience it yourself for you to understand what I mean. I feel like ever since I started doing this challenge, I've never looked at my art the same way again. And I mean that in such an amazing way. I've gained so much appreciation for the style I've built. I've also been opened up to the mistakes and the weaknesses that are there that wasn't very obvious to me before. And I think the best part of this challenge is that you take with you small different tidbits like nuggets of style from these artists. And I think those little hints of inspiration from different sources is what makes art unique in my opinion. And I really suggest that all of you do it. The skill jump that I noticed from before and after doing these is kind of insane. So yeah. Next is kind of a random one. Back up your files, please. I recently had an issue with my laptop. It actually broke down, and while repairing it, the guy fixing it told me that I was basically gonna have to lose my files for me to be able to use my laptop again, and I was devastated. I lost so much of my art. I actually had to redo an entire video because of it. It's this video, I'm putting it in the card. Yeah, I had to redo that video because I lost all the files to it, which is insane. I suggest having like a hard drive or a flash drive where you can store all of your art and use it as a sort of archive for everything that you created. Just storing your art on your laptop is like kind of risky, especially with everything that is happening to devices right now, especially like Windows. We all know the clownery that this company has been doing to their laptops, which is insane. You can also do online cloud backups like Google Drive, but I would suggest against it if that isn't really your only option because of AI. With the amount of stuff that they put into the terms of services of these websites, it's really hard to tell what they're doing with your information. And we all know that a lot of these companies are actually using images and text that you put into their systems, their websites, to train their AI models. And you don't really want that. Just use your own storage system and make sure that even if you lose your device, not everything is gone and you have something to come back to, you know? We are now at the halfway point, and I would just like to take this moment to tell you to like, comment, and subscribe. Each and every one of those interactions help me out a lot in a tremendous way, and I cannot stress how much of a difference it makes with how my channel is treated in the algorithm. So yeah, number 5. Practice makes permanent. I don't remember where I heard this quote from, but I heard it somewhere and it kind of changed the way I looked at art. People always say practice makes perfect, but that's not really the case. Whenever you practice, you build habit. And if those things that you practice aren't really the most healthy or the most appropriate, then you build habits that are not healthy or appropriate. Practice makes permanent. You want to practice things that will benefit you in the long run. A big part of that is making sure that you are learning the right knowledge. This is not shade towards anybody, but I feel like with the amount of creators online now, it's easy to come across not really misinformation, but just tips that are not necessarily helpful or accurate. And it's very important for us to be cognizant of that and to practice discernment and selectiveness with what we learn online and what we apply in our habits. A general rule of thumb is to check the artist's work. If their art is not something that you want to aspire to be at the same level with, then it's not really a good idea to take advice from them. If you look at my art and you don't really like what you see, then don't take advice from me. It's really that simple. Make sure the artist knows how to apply what they're talking about. It doesn't really make sense for you to take advice from someone about anatomy when they don't know how to accurately draw the human form correctly. It just doesn't make sense. So be mindful of that. Be aware that same with the food that you eat, the knowledge that you consume is also a very important distinguishing factor to the output of your body and your mind. So make sure to practice things that are in alignment with your goals and build healthy habits that actually help you become a better artist. This kind of goes into the next topic, which is that your health matters. So it's now the new year and I have been sick twice already in the first month. And it has really affected my productivity and my mood and my desire to do anything. Your art truly does suffer when your body is not in an optimal state. It's important to remember to take care of yourself because it really does pay off when you do and your body kind of turns on you when you don't. Especially with hustle culture and the amount of work that we are expected to take on, it's very easy to get caught up in this state of just overwork and burnout. You can wear yourself down very easily with a very unbalanced schedule and a very unhealthy lifestyle, both mentally and physically, especially physically. There are many artists I know who have had issues with their wrist because they have been drawing too much or drawing with the wrong technique. And this is just your advice to invest in a good setup that allows you to have proper posture and be mindful of your drawing technique. Go outside, exercise, lift something. Just do something that can help you with your health and be consistent with it. You'll be thanking yourself. You'll probably be thanking me too. I probably deserve a follow or something. I'm on Blue Sky, by the way, so check me out there. I just made an account and no one really follows me there, so yeah. Next. Number 7. Backgrounds make a difference. They do. Like I said, when I was a beginner, I didn't really invest much time in the backgrounds. If you look at my older work, it's typically just a blank background with like a solid color or something. And the reason as to why I did that was obviously because of skill. It's a skill issue and I really didn't know what to do or to make things look right, And for the longest time, I was like gaslighting myself a bit into thinking that, oh, it's just not my aesthetic. My art doesn't really need it, whatever. And now, looking back, that could not be more wrong. I still think my background skills are very weak, but they do add a lot to the visual appeal of my drawings and they add interest to the stories that I'm trying to tell. And if you just stop pretending that you don't really need backgrounds, that you're above doing all that, just maybe rethink it. Doing a quick environment sketch every once in a while can do wonders. It's more than doing nothing. And in my previous video where I drew my nightmares, I actually focused a lot on the environment aspect of things instead of the character. So that was not only fun, I feel like I learned a lot from that. Were they perfect? No, but that's the thing when you're doing something new. A lot of the time, especially with art, if you do something that you're not typically comfortable with, oftentimes the first attempt sucks. That's just what it is. But I've always found that the attempts that follow that always significantly get better. I find that going over that first hurdle of making something that potentially sucks is really the most difficult part of it. The more you do it, the more you get better. It makes a big difference to your art. Don't neglect it. Period. And the final advice that I'm gonna give is to look back at your old work. Actually, while I was doing my talking points for this video, I looked back on the previous 2 videos I did with a similar concept, just to check, if I'm not really repeating any advice. And I found myself actually pondering a lot on the quality of my videos and how much things have changed, It's easy to lose perspective when the only changes that you're seeing are slow and incremental changes that happen over a long period of time. When you look at things that are so far behind you, it's typically very jarring to look at yourself and the things that you've done in such a different perspective. It's often hard, a bit cringy, but I think it's very important. What have you improved on? And what aspects have you regressed? It's not always comfortable to say and talk about things like that, but self-awareness is a very valuable thing to have as an artist. It's important to never lose perspective of what you came from, where you are now, and what you plan to achieve in the future. And yeah, I guess that really wraps it up for this video. I don't really have much else to say other than subscribe, like, and comment, and follow me on Kara and Blue Sky. I think it's really time for artists to move on from Instagram. It's just not serving us the way it's supposed to, And yeah, if you're interested in watching me illustrate my nightmares, then you should go watch that video next. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye!